Hey everyone, I'm Karen Walby Solomon, and welcome to What's IGN Crushing On, IGN Africa's official entertainment podcast. I'm your host, and I'm joined as always by my producer and editor Rebecca Barches. So this is a show where we discuss all things entertainment and pop culture with a new guest every week. We bring recommendations, news, and fun facts, sometimes touching on the more serious issues surrounding these topics. This week on the podcast, we were joined by three amazing guests: the host of the popular podcast Heroine Cheek and beauty influencer Foyin Og. First, we chatted to Kenya and Zee, who have been hosting Heroine Cheek for 3 years. Heroine Cheek was the first podcast, or South African podcast, I listened to, and I'm still a regular listener. I suppose it's because of their candid nature, and because Kenya and Zee are so smart and funny. On their podcast, they talk about various pop culture and social issues, from dating to race to Beyonce to football. It's varied, but it's so uniquely them that it makes you almost want to listen to. You want to know what they think about certain issues. And I always look forward to the next episode of the podcast. So today with me, we chatted about the Meghan and Harry bombshell interview with Oprah. We spoke about how South Africans don't really cancel celebs, specifically around the euphonic DJ Fresh issue. And of course, I asked him who was their first crush, and something that most of us had in common, but Freddie Prinze Jr., who is aged lovely. We spoke about even more things like Sex and the City, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Is jam-packed and such a great conversation. So, without further ado, here's our chat with Kenya and Zee. Hi, Kenya and Zee. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
Hello, thanks
I'm so excited to have you guys here because, as you know, I've been a fan of your podcast, Heroine Cheek, for like forever. So it's such a treat that you guys have availed yourself to chat nonsense with me. So welcome. So how have you been?
Thank you.
How have you guys been doing during this time?
In general,
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. This isn't weird, but I'm kind of shocked that it's already mid-March. I have no idea where this year is going. Like, I'm just like, whoa, it's gonna be April. What the fuck's happened since 2021 started? Like, everything's a blur. It's just like, okay, whatever. But yeah, I've been good. Obviously frustrating. We're back. It was Africa. We were back in load shedding, so that sucks. But other than that, yeah, been great catching up on series and movies and stuff, and yeah.
And you, Kenya, how have you been doing?
I think I've got that fatigue that everyone else has got, where you're physically and emotionally just drained from trying to be okay all the time. And then also just combined with the next phase of my life being in my 30s, and then also just living in another city far away from home, quote unquote, because this is home now. But overall great, doing better than most, honestly.
So, tell me your friendship story. How did you guys meet?
Oh God. Okay, I'll start. Because I think we have slightly different versions, but we met.
What she means is she's gonna get the details wrong.
Obviously. Listen, you can debate your part. I will tell my side. So we met. Obviously, we both went to UCT. I was in second year when I met her, and I met her through a friend of mine at the time. From what I remember, we were both walking down. If you're Cape Townian, Rondebosch Main Road, and she was walking. Yeah, we were walking opposite directions, and then she recognized the friend that I was with, and then that's how we got introduced. That's how I remember it. What did I get wrong, Kenya?
We were in the bathroom at Starlight on Rondebosch Main Road.
That is not what happened. What are you talking about?
Don't give it class.
What are you
She's got the other details right, though. She's got the other details right. So no, absolutely. So it's a Thursday. It's orientation week / she what's it called when you have to write an exam to make up like 3 points again? I did that like 9,000 times.
A
What's it
sup.
called?
A sup.
There we go. So they're in second year. They're all writing.
Isn't a sup or something? Yeah.
Supplementary exam. So they're all writing.
Why are you exposing us like this? Okay.
And I'm on orientation week in my first year, and it's like everyone's going to Starlight. So I see the friend that she's talking about.
Explain what Starlight is.
It's a haunch. What is a haunch? It's a tavern. You know what I mean? Why are we? So if you are like 28 or older, you remember this place. If you are 29 or older, you totally remember this place. It's where the Checkers is now on Rondebosch Main Road. You know what I'm talking about. And at the spots, like there was like a ladies' night where you only gave a 2 rand coin, and you would get 4 coupons.
1 rand coin. 1 rand. 1 rand coin.
Was it 1 rand? I don't remember what it was, but it was absurd, and it was like Russian beer vodka and cream
rand.
soda. Like it was something disgusting. But you get 4 of those.
And cane.
And their happy hour was also absurd. So anyway, you cane and cream soda for like 3 rand a cup. And so we meet. So we were in the bathroom looking cute, and shame, like God bless, like all these girls wearing MAC lipstick in this like place with sticky floors. And that's where I met her. And then we discovered we had the same first name and similar dry humor. And I was just, I'm a big fan of people with big open eyes. Like bless her heart, even though she's like a spicy bitch, she's like she's a cutie pie. So yeah, we've been mates ever since.
So okay, why did you guys decide to start a podcast? Because that was like early podcast days.
Yeah, it's weird because obviously we've been doing our podcast for like, is it like 3 years now, Kenya, or is it like a bit longer than that? If I'm remembering,
I think 3 years. Officially 3 years.
Yeah, but we've definitely like been on and off with that. Like it hasn't been something that we've been like consistently doing. But I think the conversation started because we when we talk to each other about a lot of different things. Like she's probably like the one friend that I have I know I can talk to her about like stuff that I'm really interested in. Like, you know, you get some friends that like you'll discuss stuff, but there's things that you don't really click with them on. Whereas like with Kenya, a lot of stuff that I'm interested in, I can talk to her about. That's just always been the nature of our friendship. And then we'd always like, obviously WhatsApp and stuff, we'd always send each other these voice notes and I'd listen back to them and be like, oh my God, we're so funny and we're so interesting. Yes, it was BBM. Oh God, even older than WhatsApp. I'd like listen back to the voice notes and be like, wow, we're so funny. Like obviously I'm a bit of a narcissist and stuff, but like I'd be like, wow, we're so interesting, we're so funny. And then one day we were just like, should we just like do this? Like, should we just start a podcast? We just talk to each other. And I think it started from there. I'm kind of glossing over it, but like Kenya, what do you want to add?
I had listened to a few podcasts before, and then she introduced. I'm trying to think of what it was, the read to me, and I was like, okay,
it was the read, yeah.
All the podcasts I've been asked to listen to are once. I've always been like, 2 or 3 episodes, and it's nice, but whatever. And then discovered shortly after the Bodega Boys podcast, and so it was just like these deeply and beautifully Black podcasts. And I was like, okay, cool. I get just being homies spitting shit every other week to people you don't know, and hopefully they'll listen. Because they already follow you on Twitter and they don't know you, and they're like randomly following your ditzy thoughts. So what's to stop them listening to your thoughts in long form? And it was interesting because back then, I think it was even like, I think other than Cheeky Natives, I don't remember, and Mash Startup, I don't remember there really being anyone else around.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely grown a lot more, like the network of podcasts, the African podcasts as well. Because when we started, I think I could
Yeah,
barely remember like two or
Mm.
something. And now there's like a
yeah.
community going of like South African podcasts, which I think is really, really cool. And I hope like it grows more and more from there.
I was listening to an interview with Mesh Startup, and he was saying that, like, I mean, a lot of people have said that South Africa's maybe about like 10 years behind, like the UK
Yeah,
and the US when it comes to podcasts, but South Africa's like catching up fast. But like his thing is that what they wanted to do was just get more people making podcasts, because then more people will be listening to it. Because like the more
absolutely.
you
Yeah,
listen to it, the more you more likely to listen to another podcast, because you're kind of like in that groove.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah, so it is interesting, and like it is great that there's like this network now available, because I mean,
Mm.
honestly, for a while your guys' podcast was the only South African podcast I was listening to for a long time. and,
Oh,
and
wow.
now it's like,
Yeah,
and I've been like
I
super into
remember a lot
podcasts.
of people saying that.
Yeah,
That's, yeah.
because while there has been South African podcasts, it's usually like businessy and stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's not a bad thing, but I mean, I'm not really a
You need more
businessy person.
variety. Yeah, I think you need more like variety in terms of what you're trying to listen to. I mean, it's like any sort of medium or entertainment
Mm.
medium. You need different types of subjects that people are interested in. And I think the challenge for like the South African market is to just diversify the podcasts, that we already have, and like build on that. But I'm definitely starting to notice more and more South African podcasts, and it's just encourage people to take it on and actually grow the network as a whole, because I think that's how we're going to catch up
Mm.
to the UK and the US, is by more people starting podcasts.
So what would you guys say is like the biggest lesson you've learned since starting the podcast?
Ooh, I think for me, just in terms of like our listenership, I think it's a lot more broad than I thought
Mm.
it would be. Because obviously our idea initially, we were gonna talk about like just like we would discuss pop culture, but then obviously we like talking about like certain topics as well. So every episode we want to like focus or zone in on a specific topic that we can talk about. So I think what surprised me is how varied our audience is and how diverse it is. Initially, I honestly did think it would just be maybe just like young women that listen to us, but it's so broad in terms of the audience that we have now. Like people I thought would never listen to our podcast, listen to it, and I'm just like, whoa, that's weird. So that's really, really great in that our content is something that a lot of people can find value in, and a lot of different types of people listen to us. So that's really, really great.
And you, Kenya?
Honestly, just as a content producer, I would say, especially during this time of Corona, it doesn't the biggest lesson I've learned is the quality of your content fast is far more important than the quality of your production. So sometimes you're
Mm.
going to have glitches, and sometimes you're going to have like
Mm,
little, that sound isn't amazing or echoey, or it sounds tin-like. But if the content is superb, then it doesn't matter. And I think that's been the biggest
Mm.
lesson of doing this
mm,
podcast from across the world, and then also just doing it during the pandemic too, because what I once thought was perhaps just my own personal feeling towards the quality of our content is how a lot of people faced with challenges, with what we've been challenged with for years, seem to find
Mm.
as well. So that was definitely my
mm,
biggest lesson.
So the
definitely.
last time I was chatting to you guys, it was about like November or something. We were talking about The Crown season 4, and
Yeah.
we got like super into what, like, whether we thought the monarchy was gonna last and all that stuff. And obviously since then we've had
Mm,
Meghan and Harry's interview with Oprah. So what did you guys
mm.
think about that? Like, how did you feel afterwards? Anything shock you?
Um, so first of all, I think, I don't think for me personally, I wasn't necessarily shocked by what I'd heard. I was more surprised at how open it was. I think that's because I kind of went into it thinking, okay, is it going to be one of those things where they kind of pretend like, oh, we're going to have a no holds barred interview, which a lot of people kind of do to draw the audience in, and then, oh, we're going to discuss this, or this could happen, or this could happen, to like pique your interest, and then you watch it and it's kind of dry and bland, and you're like, okay, well, you didn't really delve into anything. So my biggest shock watching it was it really did feel like there was a blank paper, and they weren't really told, we're going to do this and this. These are your questions. I think Oprah even mentioned that at the very beginning. She said, we haven't prepped anything. It's literally just a sit down. So I was surprised it did. I think it lived up to that. That was my biggest shock. In terms of what was discussed, because obviously there's so much that happened, and there's so much that they talked about. Looking back now, it's not actually surprising anything that was actually revealed by that, to me, to anyone who's kind of had any knowledge of the royal family. And I think by virtue of the fact, unfortunately, we're born in a Commonwealth country, we're kind of forced to know about these people, whether we like it or not. It's common knowledge. And I think anyone who's had any knowledge of how the royal family works as a family, and then how they work as an institution, nothing she said was surprising at all. Like, from the very fact that she entered this environment that I don't think she was ever going to be accepted at all. It doesn't matter what she said or did. There was just no way that they were going to accept her. I think even seeing, like, leading up to the wedding, seeing the way that she was being treated by the press, I think they only really gave her a break on her actual wedding day. They were like, oh, we're going to say nice things about you today because you're getting married. Like, literally, that's what it was. We were like, oh, we'll be nice to her because it's the wedding. But from before, leading up to it, and then obviously afterwards, it wasn't shocking at all, like the way they treated her. I think also the only other thing that I'm shocked by when I think of the situation is probably how quickly they left. I didn't think that they would be that quick. Because I think Archie, their child's like 2 or something. He's probably like about 2 years old now. Yeah, I didn't think it would be that fast. I thought maybe they'd try to do the whole, okay, let's have our kids, and then maybe the kids, when they're a little bit older, they'll be like, okay, we're walking away, we need a break. But everything happened so quickly. I think that was the biggest shock for me.
And you, Kenya, what did you think about the interview?
I've got many thoughts on this, but my one big thought is I'm glad that Harry and her got a paying gig during the pandemic, because I know you can't go give speeches for money during this time. Listen, no, jokes aside, like, they have to figure out how they're going to make Archwell work, right? So, nice branding name. You can tell they went to a branding expert.
Yeah.
But, like, what does he do? What does he do for a living? Who is Prince Harry? You know, yeah, she's an actress, sure. What is she gonna do? Star in Medea's Homecoming forever? Like, I mean, this is
Stop.
I like, you know. So on the one hand, like, I'm glad they got their bag, and I'm glad Oprah was the one to do it with them. And isn't that magical? You know, your fairy godmother is Oprah and Tyler Perry. That's hilarious. That being said, she didn't say that she is, like, deeply or disturbed by the system. She is surprised that she got rejected because she thought she would be accepted because of her complexion and her ability to pass. And then she discovered that was never the case. That is not the case.
Yes.
And they didn't expect her to be that popular or important. And I think she didn't expect them not to see it like that. I don't know. I think there was... Anyway, she's not offended by the system, even if it's inherently racist and oppressive. What she's offended by was that she personally wasn't accepted, because it's colorism that got her in there, but it's anti-blackness that's kicking her ass out. And so, do I have empathy? Absolutely, I sure do. But also, like, the fucking gall to say things like, "Oh, am I allowed to swear on this podcast?" Too late.
It's fine.
The goal to say that she represents the face of the Commonwealth. Were you even aware of us before then? Were you even aware of us? The gall to say you are we are the face of fucking Commonwealth representation.
That was cringe.
Like you,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
from California.
I
You're from
agree.
California. You use Brazilian blowout to relax your hair. You're not I mean, so maybe in that way, your self-loathing and your understanding of how these things work is what links you to us. Because you're now suddenly like the dirt in this famous family. You could have been with a dark skinned athlete and been living the high life, but you chose this. So, um,
She could have been an NBA player.
am I lying? Am I
Yeah.
lying? She could have been
No,
she could have been a
really
top
not.
notch NBA player's high yellow boo and just been an American sweetheart. But this is what she chose. And so either you're a ditzy idiot, which I wouldn't disbelieve, and I tell you why. It's not like that family is well known for being intellectuals in general. So it wouldn't surprise me that regardless of color, they keep attracting people who are also not intellectuals. But thank God for exposing exactly how grimy this family is. Hashtag Granny Diana.
Did you see that?
Mm.
Those cards that William's children made for Granny Diana.
Dear Granny Diana, Papa misses you. Bitch, fuck off.
No, is that real?
For Mother's Day on Sunday, they released like these
Love
cards that like
Charlotte.
George and
Please.
Charlotte
Are you
made.
serious?
We think of you all the time. I'm like, you guys have never mentioned her before, ever. Daddy misses you so much. Or Papa.
Ever mentioned her? Oh God, it's so disgusting. Can I just say that, like, just in terms of, I mean, I didn't expect this family to not be like piggish and like just be cringe with their reaction, but it's just comical to watch like the amount of calculation William and Kate are doing, and the fact they think that nobody can see through it. It just makes it hilarious. Like Kate Middleton, like we barely see you out. Like you're pretty much like not somebody who's like super public, and all of a sudden you're going to like vigils for people and you're in plain clothes and there just happens to be someone there with a camera to take a picture of you, and it's just cringy stuff like that. Like that happens like a week after the interview. And then obviously the whole visiting very specific places where people of color or black people are, churches and hospitals. And it's just like, okay, you telling me this family that has money to hire probably the best PR agencies in the world can't come up with like a better way to handle this that isn't so obvious and cringe. So yeah, like it's really, for me, I'm just like, damn, who are you hiring? Because they're not doing a good job.
It's extremely obvious. Like, and then, oh God, the PR since then has just been a mess. But it's also like, for me, it's like I know that Kate and William were quite popular before Harry and Meghan happened. And then, so when Harry mentioned that, like, it was things turned when they went on their Australia trip, and like Meghan was very popular. And I saw Meghan, like, I saw them when they were here, and they were like, the people loved them, like the way the people came out here.
Oh yeah, it was a standstill
Yeah.
when they were here.
And it's like, it's so easy to calculate that he's essentially saying that William and Kate, things turned with them once they saw how popular Meghan was, and it sort of took the limelight away from them. And I can see that. Like, I can see that them getting jealous over that. Childish.
Oh no, definitely. Because if you think about it, William, I mean, okay, we know Charles is the heir apparent, but like, come on, no one actually wants Charles to be king. Like, honestly, let's be for real. Like, everyone's like, can we just skip this guy? Like, is there like a rule where you can skip him or something? Everyone's always thought it was gonna be William that's gonna be king. I remember even from like being really, really young, like it was like I was confused when I found out Charles would be king before William. I was like, what? I just grew up my whole life thinking he was gonna be king first for some odd reason. So I think William, and especially after he got married to Kate, they were obviously propped up as like the like couple of the family, you know, like with how visible they are. And then obviously they have the perfect kids or whatever. And Harry was always kind of just going to be there. And I don't think, even if he got married, I don't think they thought he was going to get married to someone who was going to draw as much attention as Meghan does. I think that is the main issue, is that she draws so much attention on her own that they just were not prepared to handle something like that, because it was always supposed to be just William and Kate. And I think once they saw how popular Meghan was, and like just her ability to like just connect with people and be relatable, they didn't really have a plan, like a PR plan for that, you know? And that's when I think they probably were like, you know what, fuck, let's just have the media just like murder this woman and like just put out stuff about her and turn the tide against her, because they didn't have a way to handle that internally and try to control the narrative internally.
Brilliant. Like, that's like brilliantly put. I can't even say anything after that. I so I don't know if you heard, but like obviously with the whole Piers Morgan thing, like they made him, they fired him because of all the shit he's always been saying about Meghan. And then I was like watching TV, and I like flicked on like ETV while my parents always watching NCA, and Gareth Cliff came up, and he said like the exact same argument. I mean, that Piers Morgan said. No, well,
As
yeah, like he was
Pierce,
like
oh my
like
goodness.
Piers Light, like he was like, oh, you know, Megan was talking about how depressed she is. Doesn't mention Harry, but then he's like, yeah, this really famous, rich actress is depressed. Boo hoo, something like that. Like that she's lying, which is essentially what Piers Morgan got fired for. But and I was just like, this is what I want to talk to you about. I was just thinking that it's so difficult to cancel someone in South Africa. Celebs. Like, I feel like
Yep,
every 2 weeks we are canceling the
yep,
same people. Like, AKA
yep,
Pearl Tusi,
yeah.
Gareth Cliff, Euphonic.
Euphonic.
Every time. Like, but
Mm-hmm.
why do you think it's so difficult to let to sort for like South Africa to just fucking cancel people?
Do you know what I think it is? I honestly think, and this is the problem with, I'm going to put quote unquote celeb culture in South Africa, because I do think in a way that celeb culture in South Africa it's not really real. Like, I feel like our celeb culture is weird. Like, it's not, it's just, there's something that's not like real celebrity here, I think. And I think the problem with the society that we live in is that people they get given, like, they're propped up because of what they have what they have as opposed to their talent, right? So when you have somebody that's like, let's take Euphonic, people have known for years that
Mm,
this guy is abusive, like for years. There was even stories when
yeah.
he was dating Bonang. I remember a very, very serious situation that happened between them, and that was put out at the time, and people were angry about it, and he
And they
survived
made
that
fun of
as
her
well.
for it.
So it's, and they made fun. She basically they blamed everything on her, and she was made to be
Yeah.
the bad party in that situation. But he didn't face any sort of consequences from that, right? And his career carried on. And I think in South Africa, when you still have that platform, or you're still able to make
Mm,
money and you're still visible, nobody's gonna cancel you. Like, no one's gonna call up, let's say you're like a radio DJ or something, or like you're a huge radio DJ. No one's gonna like call up your broadcaster or write in and like demand that this person is fired. Like, we'll all
mm,
talk about it on Twitter and we'll trend and we'll be like, oh, this person's cancelled. But there's never any like real repercussions with these people's careers. And most of them still go on and make money. And when they do that, it's like a clean slate, and no one actually
mm,
cares about them being cancelled in the first place. And it's happened with Euphonic so many times that these people still have careers. He's still able to book gigs. He's
mm,
still making money. So it's like, oh, who cares? You're hating. You know, if you want to cancel him now, you're hating because he's successful and he makes money. And I think that's what's so hard with South Africans to cancel someone properly, is because we're so fixated on what these people have and the money that they have, that if they're still able to be successful, like, no one cares. Like, oh well,
mm.
you can't cancel. For me, that's what I find with SA culture.
And it's also like, do you think it's also because we have such a little celebrities? So it's like if you cancel this
Yeah,
singer, he's gonna be on your favorite singers. He's gonna be featuring on the song. It's gonna come out. It's gonna be everywhere. What are you gonna do?
yeah. Like SA celebs, very few have
Mm,
one job. If you actually see, very few of them are like known for one thing. They're like doing five different things because our industry will hire the same 10 people to just rotate around from radio and TV and print. Like literally everyone just does
mm,
everything, one person. And so if you cancel them because they wrote something shitty in a column, they probably still have a radio show. They're probably still gonna have an ad for Dark and Lovely. They're probably like, it's just
mm,
crazy. Like honestly, it's crazy. It's like you're never gonna get rid of somebody or someone's livelihood here because our industry is so small that they end up having so many they end up having so many platforms and so many ways to like still be visible.
Yeah, I mean, the industry is incestuous and it's lazy and it's nepotistic. I mean, the fact that like your local celeb lives in your townhouse complex tells you everything you need to know about how real
Yeah.
our industry is.
Mm.
And I'm not being a dick. If you live in Santon, and that's dope, and your celeb lives in Santon too, that's likely. But also, like it was mentioned earlier, I feel like the South African celebrity machine is very similar to the DA's shadow ministry. It gets a lot of attention, even though it doesn't
mm,
actually exist or do anything.
mm,
And so that's why it's so hard to these
Yeah, that's a
people.
good point.
They're a daily they're in the mix with everything. So like very much like the DA. Actually, they're in Parliament. They're important for some reason. They're earning a lot of money. They're just not bringing real value. And that's the thing. We're not interested in value.
mm.
We're not interested in talent and in value. We're just interested in, like you said, what people have and showboating and peacocking. But I do think there will be a turn as
Yep.
certain generations grow up. They're demanding better quality content and better quality industry and diversity in stories. You can see with that reaction to that Netflix show, what's it called, Blood and Water. People want fresh, young,
Mm,
different stories. We don't want the same years or knockoff every year, or the same like um in the hood where people are only just miserable. People are very happy in the hood sometimes, actually. So tell us those stories. So people
mm,
are just waiting for diversity in the actors and the producers. But if you're going to award everything to the Fergusons and to Basi Kumalo, then obviously we're never going to see growth in our industry, and we're going to have the same quote unquote celebs, because all it is really is it's just like a corporate job where you're on TV. That's it. It's the same people.
Yeah.
mm.
It's just a machine.
Yeah. Definitely.
So, what have you guys watched recently that you really enjoyed?
I don't know. It's for me, I think pandemic, somebody mentioned this and I definitely agree. I think a lot of the time because we're in this place where so much is uncertain. Maybe things will get better now because there's a
Mm,
vaccine, but who knows? Maybe it won't. Um, that a lot of us are comfort watching. So you're going back to things that like make you feel good, and you want to watch stuff that makes you feel good. So I kind of started rewatching The
mm,
Sopranos because I hadn't watched that in years, and that's like one of my favorite shows. And then but I recently, in terms of new shows, I watched WandaVision, which I was really apprehensive about because one, I'm always wary about the whole superhero thing. Like, I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big Marvel person, and I have this weird love hate relationship with Marvel because I kind of feel like it's almost killed, not killed cinema per se, but it's just killed variety in terms
mm,
of what movies people like. And I feel like they've completely monopolized the movie industry. And people just kind of watch superhero movies now. Like no one else is, people aren't really interested in different types of stories. We're all just watching superhero movies. So I've always just been apprehensive of like getting super into Marvel. But like, I just like, okay, I'm home. I have nothing to watch right now. Let me just watch WandaVision. So I watched that and I was pleasantly surprised. It was really, really good. I wasn't expecting to like it. Also because I'm not a big Marvel person, I didn't really care about like Vision as a superhero, and I don't care about Scarlet Witch either. But I walked away from the show and I'm like, okay, I might actually watch a Scarlet Witch movie, or I might actually watch something about Vision. So that's what I watched recently. And then before that, obviously, I watched The Crown. But other than that, I've been just going back to stuff that I like watching.
And you, Kenya?
Oh, I've been doing what did you call it? Comfort watching for years, because I'm a highly anxious person. And so what going back to things is, oftentimes play shows I like in the background because you know what's going to happen. It's a sense of control. Anyway, so I'm glad to hear other people are starting to do that too. I mean, I'm always watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch because the first 4 seasons of that show were brilliant.
Oh, yes.
I've never rewatched that.
Yes, I want to rewatch that. I love that.
It's excellent. It's excellent. It's well written. Actually, it was so ahead of its time, but it was perfect for its time because it's the best capsule of late 90s, early 2000s pop culture. It is just like, if you recall, the intros were always of her in different costumes. So just like the costume design in that show in general was incredible. Salem the cat is obviously the star of the show with all these blonde witches just around him.
An icon.
And it's interesting. You see what would be assumed as problematic now, and you're just like, actually, I'm not saying that, those assholes who say things like, oh, everything's too PC. But I see how we were talking just 15 years ago, and I'm just like, in certain instances, it wasn't that bad. Or I remember when this was okay to say, and I still feel like it would be fine with certain people. And just having thoughts like that. Seeing things that are problematic, seeing things that were progressive for that time, like in terms of misogyny and race. Like casting wise, I think that show for the time it was in had, in terms of not permanent cast but rotating cast, had a lot of diversity actually. Also, I like to rewatch Charmed for the same reasons. Also, just like an iconic show to touch base with. And recently, Community I've gone back to because I didn't appreciate it fully before because of that break they took and they came back and they were weird. The Community I appreciate so much. In terms of new viewing, Behind Her Eyes on Netflix blew my mind. Loved it.
Oh, I was about to start that.
It's
Haven't seen
well
that
worth it.
yet.
Well worth it. Judas and the Black Messiah I thoroughly enjoyed.
I just watched that today
Well
and
worth
I
the
was
Oscar nod.
crying.
Yeah,
I'm
very
going to
well
check it
done.
out as well. I haven't seen it yet.
It's not prolific, but it's very well done. What else?
I'm definitely gonna
I
check
would
it
like
out.
to find out what the news is for Stranger Things season 4. Does anyone know what the haps is there?
It's supposed to be, I think, next year. I haven't seen like
Is it next
filming
year?
or anything, but those kids are huge now. They're like 18.
Yeah, they definitely, they're grown now. But I just that show. I feel like that show's lost me. I didn't enjoy the last season at all. It just like went off a cliff for some reason for me. I don't even think I watched the finale. Like I was like, fuck this. I'm not gonna finish it. So I don't know. I might pick it up again. Let me see what the premise
It'll be
of
like
the new
adults
season
by the
is. But
time the new season.
yeah, by the time maybe it will be, and I'll be interested to see how they switch that up for them. But I didn't enjoy the last season that much, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I keep forgetting
Okay.
about that show lately.
Speaking
But
of
I saw-
shows that we need to forget about, what do you guys think about the Sex and the City reboot nonsense?
Oh god.
Horrible idea. That for me, I even think Sex and City, I feel like they were even taking a big risk to actually do a movie. like an actual first movie that they did. I think that was even a big risk because you're taking this iconic show that I feel like they wrapped it up as well as they possibly could have, like whether you agreed with the ending or not. And now you're going to put it in like a film setting, which I think they got away with the first time. And the second time it was a bit shaky. And now you're trying, this would be the third
series.
movie, right? If they did it. Oh, sorry, this would be the third time though they're like rehashing it if they do.
But
yeah, it's a series. I just don't like the idea. And then I've heard that's different. And then I also heard that Mr. Big isn't back. So how's Kerry gonna explain that? Is he just gonna die? Like, what's gonna happen there?
I don't know. I'm done with these
doesn't sound like a good
problems. I feel
idea.
like I've dealt with the issues enough in my
in
life.
the storyline,
Yeah.
Samantha dies of cancer. They address cancer, and Samantha dies of cancer. I think Big either just ghosts Carrie one day or he also dies. I don't know. But either way, that should be a big sign to everyone involved in this project that nobody wants this anymore. Like, your two most entertaining and like multifaceted
Exactly.
characters are refusing to come back. Like, you can't replace them with other people. They're too iconic. And they're also old. I don't want to see, like, I was already disinterested in a 30-something-year-old Sarah Jessica Parker. I don't want to see a leathery and wrinkled Sarah Jessica Parker. Like, you try to force her down my throat in divorce. You keep trying to force these bitches down our throats.
It's not gonna work.
You know what I'm saying? You said she was the fashion
I just don't. I just
and
think
we
that.
bought it, but now it's not relevant. Like, just let us bask in.
And now we look back at those outfits and. Exactly.
And, like, also
everything
HBO
about
is
that
talking
show
about- HBO
is
is
like a
talking-
time capsule.
HBO is talking about rebooting True Blood. Also, why? Of all the shows, why touch
feel like True
these
Blood just
popular
ended.
hits? You had a good time. Let it go.
You can go on.
No, I just wanted to say that I actually really like the Carrie Bradshaw prequel series. Like, I think it got cancelled like after 2 seasons or something like that. The Carrie Diaries. But I really enjoyed that
they
show.
did do that. Oh, I remember. See, now I just remember that. I don't think I've ever really watched it. I probably maybe saw one episode, but I wasn't super into it. It makes sense to do something like that. I don't think anyone, like Kenya says, I really don't think anyone is interested in. How old are these
60,
women now?
50.
They would be what? They'd be in their 40s, late
No, Sarah
40s or
Jessica Parker's
something?
definitely over 50.
Probably.
Late 50s, early 60s.
Lord, even worse. Yeah, no, people are not interested in what are you're not going to have the same pool. Like, I really think shows like Sex and the City they're time capsules. They're relevant for a very specific period and they fit and they make sense within that time. And then as soon as you kind of force now to see these characters later in life, it just doesn't, it's not as compelling. Like, they're not going to be going to Fashion Week. And they're not going to be flying to Paris randomly for lunch or whatever. Like, they're not going to be doing things that like were grabbing you in the first time because now they're older. I assume they all have kids now. Like, no one wants to see that.
Yeah, we have Grace
Like,
and
no one
Frankie.
wants
We
to
don't need more old people, do we?
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
More
It's
than
just
Golden
it's
anything,
Girls.
it's just
unnecessary.
more old people. That nobody wants to see rich white women getting older because, in general, white women don't take aging well. I want to. If you're gonna force women aging down my throat, give me black and brown women because they're fucking entertaining. I can't wait to be a motherfucking auntie. Do you know what I'm saying? Because then I'm coming with my heat. Then I'm gonna start pumping R&B, talking about what you know about this. And I'm gonna push murder dance and shit. You know what I mean? I want to start playing Tame Impala and doing this murder dance, and having the only the reference also be 60. And that's just who I want to be. But like, and I think that's a different. Like, show me something like that. I've never seen a show celebrating or embracing how women of color age. That's something I want to see. Like, I know how white women age.
That's
you know,
true.
I know we know that story. It's back to front. We've seen all their trials and tribulations with getting older. We're so bored. Like, just nobody wants to see this anymore, Susan. We're done.
Okay, so the final question. So who was your first celebrity crush?
Yeah, so that I remember, because I saw a picture of him the other day, was Freddie Prinze Jr. I was literally obsessed with him. And I think at the time they were like, he was like in all these teen movies. Like,
Yeah.
I can't remember all of them. I think was he in She's All That?
Yeah.
And he was in, I can't remember all of them, but he was everywhere at the time. And I literally was like, oh my God, this man is beautiful. And for me, when I think of a teenage crush, I think of him. So definitely Freddie Prinze Jr.
And you, Kenya?
I don't remember who the first was, but I do remember like the most important being Freddie Prinze Jr., Keanu Reeves, and Josh Hartnett were extremely important men in my life.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was my holy trinity. Like I couldn't understand people's obsession with Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt and the like, because I was like, they're already white, now they're also like blonde. I used to convince myself that Freddie Prinze Jr. was not white, which made me feel better about everything, because I was like, oh my gosh, no, it's like he's Puerto Rican, which he is also Puerto Rican. It's just that like
I thought
he's also white.
Yeah.
He's Puerto. Yeah, no, he's actually aged really well. Like, you can see unproblematic white slash Puerto Rican men, like, age really well.
Yeah, he actually has. Yeah, he has. He has.
Okay, guys, thank you so much
Sarah
for
Michelle
joining
Gellar
me on the podcast.
really killed the 90s, hey? Oh, this lag, hey?
She did. It's fine. But you're right. She did kill the
Yeah.
90s.
Sarah
Hit
Michelle-
show.
She
did.
owned the
She had a hit
90s.
show. She took the best man and she said, "You're not going to work no more. I don't want you around these hoes no more. Let's go." And that's it. Beyonce couldn't
She
even
killed
do
it. She killed it.
Beyonce couldn't even keep him off the streets and keep him aging well. 'cause they hate him. That's incredible. I think that's something we don't talk about enough. Because even Sarah Michelle Gellar, for a white lady, is aging quite well. I'm just like, you are literally, everyone's saying Reese Witherspoon, but the most underrated star of the 90s is Sarah Michelle Gellar. She really did the damn thing. She collected her bag, she got her man, and got the fuck up out of there.
Unproblematic.
Exactly.
Yep.
Actually,
Goals.
on that note, like, that's a perfect way to end the pod. On that Sarah Michelle Gellar. So thank you guys so much.
Yay, I loved it. Thanks for having us.
That was our chat with Kenya and Zee from Heroine Cheek. You can find them on Twitter and Instagram at heroine_cheek. And you can find Heroine Cheek on all podcast apps. I will link to the podcast and their individual Twitter accounts, which are both really entertaining, in the notes below. Now we have our interview with Foyin. Foyin is a beauty influencer who hosts the 7 Days, 7 Faces event. That is like, it has 7 different prompts and people try different makeup looks for each day of that week based on the prompt. It's amazing to see how creative people get during this time. She has previously partnered with Netflix and Fashini Beauty. And honestly, I always look forward to these weeks, even as a non-makeup-y person. It's so exciting to see how creative people get with the prompts that they are given. So in our conversation today, we spoke about her inspiration for the event, some of her favorite looks, and also, of course, because it's pop culture, we spoke about the Meghan Markle interview and so much more. So here's our chat with Foyin. Hi Foyin, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Hello, hi, thank you so much for having me.
So how have you been? How has this pandemic-esque situation treated you?
I can definitely say that there have been some super high highs and some extreme lows, but above all, I'm just happy to be here, you know, make it through.
So tell me like about how your whole makeup journey began.
It's definitely been a long journey, you know. I was always kind of obsessed with glitz and glamour as a child, but then my mom would not let me wear makeup. So I was a late bloomer in that regard. So I only started experimenting with makeup properly towards the end of
Mm.
matric in my first year of university. I came to varsity with, like, you know, those little toiletry bags you get on an
Yeah.
airplane? Like, that was all the makeup that I owned in my life. And if you had to see my room today, you would probably like vomit from being overwhelmed. So this is the only time hoarding has actually worked to my credit. But yeah, so along the way, um, I definitely I definitely started my YouTube passion
Mhm.
and my like journey with YouTube around the same time that I started my journey with makeup, because that is where I started to learn everything. I remember being in matric searching for 500,000 eyebrow tutorials, because I think that's the one thing that I needed to master. I've always been super obsessed with my eyebrows and I needed to learn how to do them properly. So that was like where it all started. And then from there, the most notable moment was definitely in first year in the June vac, where I went to Lagos for my cousin's wedding. And, you know, the Nigerians have always been like a step ahead in terms of the
Mm.
glamour, you know? So for her wedding, we got a makeup artist to come and tie our gillies and do our makeup for us. And literally the transformation was like incredible. Like I literally couldn't believe it. And I was just like, you know, this feeling, this thing right
Mm.
here, I want this forever. So that's when like I really started to take a huge interest in makeup, and I started to build up my collection from Dischem and clicks until I could afford more. And that's when I started to blog about it, because I've been a blogger since about 2012, but I was mostly into fashion and like lifestyle and pop culture and writing. So that's when I started to get into beauty writing and distance from fashion, because I also couldn't afford to keep up with fashion
Mm.
at that time because I was a broke varsity student, you know. But beauty I could do in my res room, you know, with my camera in front of me. So I definitely leaned towards there. And then I just kept on practicing, doing makeup for all of my friends and rares, you know,
Mm.
things like that. And then in the beginning of 2017, you know, because Fees Must Fall in 2016 shifted out the calendar. So I went back to Nigeria and I did a makeup course there at the House of Tara International Makeup School. And then I came back and I was like, yeah, let's do it, let's push. So from 2017, I can say that's when I've genuinely been like super passionate all about makeup and beauty, and it's just been growing and building up to this moment right here.
Yeah, so like it's really been like a gradual growth. Like,
Definitely, it's not like a bandwagon overnight success type of situation. It's literally been like a decade in the
mm,
making.
perfect. So tell me how you started with the 7 day 7 faces event.
So at the beginning of lockdown, which was almost a year ago, can you believe it? Um, Another influencer, Kay Yarms, she wanted to challenge her followers to, or not challenge, but encourage her followers to do a sort of makeup challenge with her, where they would do their makeup every day of the original 21-day lockdown. And that was just to sort of like encourage each other and keep creative and keep inspired during that time. Um, and I definitely admired her efforts, because as an influencer, a lot of our job comes from being social, comes from being out there, comes from going out. Not only like that's the only social aspect that we have, as in collaborating and going to events, but makeup, fashion, things like that, they kind of revolve around you going
Mm.
somewhere. And even at the beginning of lockdown, when we couldn't even buy things like face wash, like how are you supposed to promote products or utilize products that your consumers can't even access, you know what
Mm.
I mean? So it was very tricky for us to figure out like what is our place in this lockdown scenario, like how do we maneuver this situation. And she was like, let's just use what we have and just keep creating throughout the 21 days. So I was unfortunately not in the physical, emotional, mental state of mind to participate for the 21 days. But when it ended, I was like, I definitely want to do something like this, because I, number one, I need content to
Mhm.
post. But number two, it's a really nice creative push for myself. Like I loved doing creative makeup and setting up little photo shoots and creating content and things like that from high school age. And you know, sometimes when you're in the beauty rut of like creating tutorials and Instagram looks and stuff, you don't get to be as creative as you
Mm.
used to be. So I was like, let me instead of just trying to create looks every single day, let me give you prompts. Let me create like a theme, and then your makeup look needs to kind of relate to the theme. And that helps because you don't have to wake up every morning being like, what am I going to do today? What makeup can I do? This gives you a little bit more direction, but not too much direction such that everyone's look ends up the exact same and there's no room for creativity or growth. So I found a nice balance between the two. And the first round was literally just like me and a couple of people. It was very, very small. And 2 months later, I was like, let's do it again, but like let's like be serious about our content. Like let's push, because I also wanted to try grow my following at the time. So I was like, let's push. And that round was really successful. And by round three is definitely when I can say the challenge went viral. That's when I had like a few articles written about me. It was also around the time that a huge campaign that I did with Johnson's had gone live. I had been invited to be on 5FM around that time. So like it was really just picking up momentum. And that was really huge. And then it all built up to October, which was the last round 4 of 2020, where that's where I had reached out to some of the brands that I've been working with in the past. And I was like, hey, let's collab and like, let's make this bigger and more interactive, and let me give back to the followers who have allowed me to take it to this point and given me this notoriety, you know? And that round was huge as well. And the brands were like super happy. And Netflix reached out to me during that round and they were like, hey, we have a new show that we want to promote. We think this will be amazing to work with. So we started planning. So from October, we started planning the 7 days for January. And once this finished, I was like, what are we going to do next? Like Netflix was huge. How do we still elevate and switch it up from here, you know? And I reached out to a few friends at Foyin Og and I was like, hey guys, you guys do beauty. Foyin Beauty is trying to grow and like solidify itself as a beauty marketplace. So let's collab on a beauty challenge, you know? And they were so keen and so incredible. And that has brought us to now, which is the 6th round of 7 Days, 7 Faces.
So how do you come up with the prompts? Because it has to be, I suppose, broad, but also specific enough.
So I won't lie. A lot of the prompts are literally just makeup things that I want to do. So I do project quite a bit. I'm like, oh, I want to do this type of look. How do I weave it into this challenge? So some of my looks are already predetermined before the prompt list even goes out because I've already made up my mind. But it is a challenge to try and like balance creativity and like accessibility, because you don't want to make it too challenging that people feel discouraged from participating, but you don't want to make it like too prescriptive where everyone does the same look, or too basic where it's just like everything else that they were going to do, you know? So I tried to like balance out the prompts, like some super creative ones that could lend itself to like makeup novices. So stuff that is like super easy as well. Not everything must be SFX and like cosplay and everything. Some basic and like entry level prompts as well. And then just broader categories. I found that broad categories definitely do help. So you can like niche it down if you choose to, but it also allows for people from all interests and all levels of expertise to be able to create something. That was actually like a huge challenge that I had with the Netflix round, because TV is not so different to makeup, but especially the way that we wanted to integrate the show Bridgerton, which we were promoting. We needed to make it seem organic, you know, like the whole challenge couldn't be based around Bridgerton, because then it wouldn't be that interesting, you know, and people would run out of looks to do. So finding that middle ground and choosing genres of makeup of shows to do makeup looks on was a really great way to compromise, because it opened up the door for so many different looks and so many different shows, and it definitely opened a lot of people's minds to shows they hadn't seen on Netflix before. So it's also good promotion for just other shows in general, as well as Bridgerton, which we were doing. But yeah, so it was a very like tricky balance, but I think we managed to do it really well, and people were so excited, and they really like they stepped up the level for that. They like did full sets, wigs, props, photo shoots. Like it was really, really incredible. So I'm really happy that challenge in particular turned out the way that it did. And in this challenge, where we brought it back down to makeup and like makeup level prompts, it could still be so exciting and different from the previous ones, while still being like accessible to people and not feeling like you need to be a professional in order to execute some of the prompts.
I remember with the Netflix one of the prompts was like, your favorite Netflix character. And it was so amazing how far it could reach. Like people were doing animated characters, like from like animes and like adult animation, but they were also doing like very
Yes,
simple a character from a contemporary series, which is like a lot easier to
exactly.
do. It was so great how, and and people incorporated their wardrobe. It was really
It was literally like amazing. And that's what I loved about that prompt in particular. Because like I said, I like to like elevate some things and bring things down to like
mm,
basic level. So it's like with that prompt in particular, you could literally do anything that you wanted. Like you could go the whole 9 yards. Or you can do a soft glam look and say that you've dressed up as like, I don't know, Meghan Markle from Suits, you
yeah.
know? So it's like you really did have as much leeway as you wanted to interpret it however you want and execute it however you wanted to.
Has there been a look yet that has surprised you, like you didn't expect it?
I get impressed a lot. Like every single round, there are always looks where I'm just like, I would never have thought of that. Oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Guys are doing such cool things. Look at the props. Look at the photos. Like this photo shoot, you did a whole photo shoot for this. This is so amazing. But I think my favorite looks are the ones that like kind of make me
Mm.
laugh. Like yesterday's prompt was villains, and someone like dressed up as Mojo Jojo and even made like the helmet and the beard. And I just thought that was like so cute and like funny. But one of my favorite looks, like it will stick with me from forever, was I think from round 4, and the prompt was music video, and a girl dressed up as Pop Smoke. And when I tell you that she looked exactly like him, like she had the cornrows, she drew on the beard, they looked like the wardrobe, the outfit, like it was hilarious but brilliant at the same time. And it's stuff like that, things that like are just so witty and funny and like
Mm.
clever. Like also yesterday, um for the villains prompt again, someone dressed up like a Tinder
Oh,
date, like a
yes.
guy from Tinder, and like she was even holding a
Oh
fish
my God.
for like to pretend to be a guy, and I was just like, that is hilarious. Like it is spot on. It's so funny. So just those clever things when you see how like witty and banterful people are, I live for those types of
Oh,
looks.
that fake Tinder profile with the seriously
The fish.
straight.
Oh
Oh,
yes. Oh my gosh, it was so funny.
I'm gonna I'm gonna link it in the show notes of this episode because I feel like everybody needs to see it. It was brilliant.
It was brilliant.
So something I've heard a lot about people who have like partook in the event is that they have never seen like such an outpouring of love from either people who just enjoy like watching it, but also from other people who are also partaking in it. Like they really feel like they're part of a community. Like how important was that for you to foster?
When I started this challenge, I don't think that was necessarily my intent, but it's something absolutely brilliant that came out of it that I'm so proud of and grateful for at the same time. Like when you start a challenge, you kind of want to be the center of
Mm,
attention, and or like you expect that kind of thing where people would just kind of look to you and not necessarily look at each other. But interacts with the way everyone interacts with each other is literally, it's mind blowing. Like it's so positive. It truly is a safe space. So many people describe it as a
mm.
safe space, and it truly is. You have people from all different races, genders, sexual identities. Like it's really just everyone coming together to have a good time and experiment with makeup. From the novices to the professional makeup artists, everyone just showers each other with love and is so supportive. And like we also like defend each other. Like when people come with snarky
Mm.
remarks or like try to be rude, we're like, hey, what are you doing? Stop. Like we really are protective of each other because we know that these 7 days give us a little bit of purpose, give us a little bit of direction, give us a little bit of catharsis from the chaos all around us. And it's so important to like protect this community that we've built. And it literally is like you mentioned, from the onlookers to the people who participate, like people look forward to it. People love to see the looks. And I love to see the way that people engage with each other. Like I never expected that they would do that, but I love it so much. It's so important.
I remember, I think it might have been the last one. Someone dressed up like Meghan Markle, and then like Meghan Markle stands like came for them, and everybody just defended her because it was
Yeah.
so
We
unnecessary.
got each other's back. Because yeah, like why be weird when you can be quiet? That is one of my life mottos. So if you're gonna come with that rudeness, we can dish it right back. Like, not up in here, sis. Like, we look after our own. And I think that fostering of community is so important, because it just affirms that you belong here. Anyone is welcome here, so long as you're good vibes, you're loving, and like you want to create, we will support you, and you will support us. Like, we are all in this together, and that togetherness, like, that is the one thing that I love about this challenge, because I see people even just using the hashtag to be like, oh, I wish I could participate. Oh, maybe next time. Oh, I don't even know how to do makeup, but this looks so fun. And I'm literally like, guys, come through. This is for you. Like, you don't have to be a pro to have fun here. Like, literally, this challenge is for everyone. Come, enjoy, have fun with us. And people actually end up doing it because they just feel like, yeah, like, let me try, because they know that they're supported, because we're all doing this together. So if the challenge is foolish and we're going to look like a fool, we're all going to look like a fool, you know? And it's going to be like fun for all of us. So that sense of community, like, starts with the prompts itself, and the fact that like we are all doing them together. So we've all got each other, because we're all doing it. You don't have to worry about looking stupid or your makeup not being the best or whatever, because it's really just about you trying something new and having fun and just exploring your talents.
And it's so interesting for me how people have used the challenge for good as well. Like, I saw, I think yesterday or the day before, somebody did a live stream to raise money for a rape crisis of them putting on their
Yes,
makeup.
definitely. I'm even gonna look for the name, because I wanna give them a shout out. Um, okay, I can't find it right now, but like, it's literally the most incredible thing that I'd ever seen, because I would have never thought of doing that. And they did this of their own volition, like literally unprovoked. And they were like, I want to raise money for a cause. So let's do it. Like, their their handle is Zan Banan.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure what their name is. But like, that's who did it. And it was the most incredible look that came out of it, and just an incredible initiative. And I was just like, the fact that you use my platform to enact change is just really encouraging at the same time. Like, you really can just use this for whatever good that you want to use it for. People are taking ownership of the challenge as well. And I find that like super humbling and affirming. Like, you feel so comfortable in the space that you want to utilize it like that. And like, that's amazing.
So how would you like to see 7 Days, 7 Faces grow?
7 Days, 7 Faces kind of came from spontaneity. So I'm not going to be too darling and prescriptive with it. I definitely would love to see the challenge continue. So long as people want it to continue, I will be there to orchestrate it, and I will try and make it as engaging and exciting and collaborative as I can, with like, and to give back as much as I can. I'll definitely try and do that. But I've been like thinking about things like 7 Days, 7 Faces, like live events, like workshops, and things like that. Someone on Twitter was like, "Oh, get Netflix on the line. Let's have a TV show, like a Project Runway style makeup show." And I'm just like, I would look so good on TV. Like, let's do that. Like, get Showmax on the phone. Come through. Let's do it. Like, those are just, and that also just goes to show that literally the opportunities are endless. So long as we can be creative, and so long as other people and other brands and other companies trust me and trust this community enough, we can literally do whatever.
Yeah. So, pivoting slightly, I did want to ask you. So, I know that you are quite a big fan of The Crown, because I used to see
Yes.
your very angry Camilla live tweets.
Oh my gosh, all the homies hate Prince Charles.
But I just so I wanted to know, like, what are your thoughts on the Meghan and Harry interview with Oprah and their bombshells that they released?
So first of all, it's weird because it's like, we all know what the Crown is capable. We all know what the firm is capable of. Like, we all watched the Crown. We know what happened to Diana. So we
Yeah.
know that they're horrible people. But to hear it is always still so shocking, because it's like, we're in a modern world and you guys still stayed so archaic. Like, you didn't even bother to try adapt or catch up. Like, it's always so shocking in that regard. And it's like, there's generally two trains of thoughts. Like, some people are like, okay, but she knew they were horrible. She married into it. Why is she complaining now? She knew exactly what she was marrying into. Did she think she was just going to be a rich princess and everything was going to be hunky dory? No, you deserve this. And then there are other people who are like, mistreatment shouldn't never be justified.
Mhm.
Like, that's victim blaming. Like, bad things are still bad. And it's like, no matter how bad you think the thing is, like, even if Meghan knew what she was going into, that doesn't absolve the royal family from being
Yeah.
awful to her, you know? That doesn't make it okay. And that doesn't mean she must suffer in silence. And using her voice also helps a lot of other people in similar situations, and also just brings, also it's just a call for justice, you know? Like, our mothers and aunties and the
Mm.
older generations, they identified so much with Diana because they know what it feels like to be like
Yeah.
Diana in their family with their in-laws, you know, interactions with them, to have the family tear you down or have your husbands mistreat you, etc. So that's why they were so protective of Diana, and that's why they were so hurt when she died. And in that respect, I feel like um, Meghan can be kind of our Diana, especially
Mm.
for Black women, especially for women of color, because we know what it's like to have these like dog whistle politics, to have these microaggressions, to be
Mm.
gaslit when things are happening right in front of you, to be lied about, to be painted as the villain. Like, we understand what that's like. And I think that makes it even more important for Meghan to speak her truth, and it makes it even more valid because we experience those things in all places of the world, and we live in the society. So even if Meghan chose it in the crown and she chose it in the royal
Mm.
family, we didn't necessarily choose that violence in the corporate world. We didn't choose it in our romantic relationships, but still it happens. So her talking about it is ultimately the same as us talking about it. You know, it's bringing to light these issues that we all face. Yeah, it's a different institution. Yeah, we're not royal and rich and whatever, but like, it still matters that she gets justice, because the more she speaks about what she's going through, it creates change so that a world where that kind of thing is
Mhm.
normalized won't exist anymore. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I'm definitely all for Meghan speaking her truth. I'm all for her protecting her peace and her privacy. And I love Harry even more because we all know of those men who will, like, not even necessarily gaslight you, but will like and who will
Yeah.
minimize your complaint and choose their
Charles.
family and tell you to just get with it or get over it, or you must be the one to compromise. And he was like, no, this is wrong. Like, they're treating you poorly. You deserve better. We're going to get out of this toxic situation. So many men would just let their wives suffer instead of helping them. So I really commend Harry for being someone who was like, not on my watch.
Yeah. Actually, as you were talking, I was thinking like so many women of color, especially in the older generations, the minute they got married, they moved in with their husband's family. And we
Yeah.
don't think about like how that has maybe,
The dynamics of
yeah,
that, you know?
impacted generations of women and how they, react to men and that kind of, and also maybe why they,
And they probably also had to be silent for so
yeah.
long because they can't speak back to their mother-in-law and father-in-law, especially when they're living in their house, you know, with their husband. So they take all the abuse, like even like the Makoti syndrome, like, and like situations where you have to wake up at
Mm.
3 and 4 and chop all the veggies and clean the house and do this, and they mistreat you and like are so, like, they just treat you poorly because they feel like they can, and the husbands just let it happen because
Yeah.
that's your role. You know, like, we've seen this replicated in our family for generations, and that's why it's like when it happened to Diana, our mothers related, and when it's happening to Megan, we're like, we see it, we feel you, we know what
Mm.
you're going through, you know. So justice for her. So even just on that alone, I'm like, I'm with Megan.
Yeah, I'm with, that's a perfect hashtag. I'm with Megan. So what else have you watched recently that you can recommend?
I won't lie. The way my life is set up right now, I don't watch many new
That's okay.
things. One thing that makes my anxiety like at bay is just rewatching things that I've seen before because I like them, because I know how things are gonna go and I can take a nap in between, and because like they just never get old. So in between rewatching things like How I Met Your
Mhm.
Mother and CSI, I've also been watching like rewatching like Family Guy on
Oh.
Netflix. I feel like they put on like 6 seasons or something, and I just put them on loop in the background. They're just background noise for me while I work. So that's literally what I've been watching. But I've been super, super, super into Love Island SA.
Oh.
Beyond the absolute train wreck that was last week, this week is getting good. Like it's giving what it's supposed to give. So I'm really into it, and I'm also just rooting for the people I know. Like shout out to Timna. I hope she wins. Don't really know how they win, but like shout outs.
I think she has a good chance of winning.
I'm for Timna and Livo. Like I hashtag Black Love. I'm there.
And they're super popular. Like you can see with every vote, like the people like Timina's always tops. So I'm like, if
She's great. Like she's just literally like perfect, especially now that she's like relaxed a little bit more and got to the show and like put her guards down, and like she has like a great connection with Livo. Like they're literally a crowd favorite because they're just like banterful and beautiful and fun.
yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm also team Timna and Libo all the way. So what would you say is probably your favorite movie ever?
I hate that the first thing that came to my mind was Gone Girl.
Perfect. Perfect.
Like don't ask me why, but it needs at least like an annual rewatch.
Yeah.
I used to be like a huge Harry Potter rewatcher, and I still stand by my like Harry Potter standum. But there's something about Gone Girl that just hits the spot. And you know what? Grown-ups need consequences, and I think that's the key lesson that we need to take from that movie. And I love
Have
it.
you seen Promising Young Woman?
I haven't.
It's a similar vibe. I mean, not entirely. I still think Gone Girl's better, but Promising Young Woman also has you get a similar sort of feeling like you get when you watch Gone Girl, like
Ooh,
a bit of
love that.
revenge.
Like vindication, a little bit. I can't explain it. Don't read too much into it, but just that little bit of vindication.
No, I get it. I
It's just
get
like,
it. I get it.
yeah.
It's a feel good. It's a feel good movie.
Definitely. It's something lighthearted, Christmas rewatch, something for the kids, It's super nice, super light and fun.
Educational.
Yeah, definitely. Moral of the story, we love it.
So, what would you say is your favorite series ever?
Um, Criminal Minds. I'm a big criminal series show, and one of my main pet peeves right now is that they don't make crime shows like they used to. Like I grew up watching Criminal Minds and CSI and CSI Miami and CSI New York. Like those were my TV shows. Yeah, I did watch Grey's and all of that, but like the crime shows
Mm.
were my shows. And they're trying too hard nowadays. Like they're trying to make everyone interesting and cool and quirky and have their own like special quips and whatever. And I'm just like, give us a show where Oaks just solve crime. Just give us just even throw in a serial killer. Like just give us some good old crime. Those are my types of things.
Did,
So I'm definitely a Criminal Minds stan. Oh, Matthew Gray Gubler. Can't explain the crush on him, but it's valid.
but did you hear that they are like rebooting it or something like that, or reviving it?
I honestly hope they don't.
Mm.
And it's for the exact reason that I just stated. They just don't write crime shows like they used to. So they're gonna kill it. Like I just leave good enough alone. Like they tried with the spin-off, the Criminal Minds Beyond Borders. Awful show. 2 out of 10. Even CSI Cyber, thumbs down. Sorry, Bow Wow. It really wasn't great. So like just leave certain franchises alone. Think of something new and then simplify that thought and then make it.
You know, the Law and Order SVU person.
Oh my gosh, I live for Law. How did I forget Law and Oh my gosh, I love Law and Order. Mariska Hargitay can save my life. I love it. Do you know what's super underrated though? Law and Order Criminal Intent. Like Goran and Eames, the most dynamic duo you'll ever see. Absolutely live for that show.
Criminal Intent. I vaguely remember that one. The guy
If you just keep watching Universal Channel like I do, sometimes they replay it, and I live for those moments.
Oh yeah, no, I do. It's I remember it vaguely.
Yeah, no, get into it. It's really good.
So who would you say was your first celebrity crush?
I was actually thinking about this question the other day, and I have to say it's probably a toss-up between I can't remember their real names, but it's the guy who plays what's his name on CSI? It was a CSI guy.
Which one?
And it was the black guy with like the green
Oh
eyes.
yes,
Warwick Brown.
with
It was him.
yeah.
he had like he was the curly hair and the green eyes, and it was between him and I want to say his name was his name Donnell on One on One.
Yeah. Oh, they look similar.
Do you see what I'm saying? And I feel like I had a type when I was growing up because those were the men that I was fed. And then as I started to grow up a little bit, I was like, ooh, we digs, Tay digs come through. Like my taste, my palette diversified. But I feel like from my childhood, those were the shows that I was watching in my childhood. Yes, One on One and CSI. It's called Balance. So those are the people that I definitely, because I feel like maybe they're only like black men, like youngish and stuff. So they were definitely like the cool guys. They were also positioned as the hot oaks. And I was impressionable. So I was like, yeah, the hot oaks are hot. I love them.
I remember the time when that Donnell guy was in everything. Like
He was in everything.
like movies.
And he was Coach Carter. Do you remember like Coach Carter? He was in there. Why did I say his name was Donnell? That's so racist. It's Arna. What? Arnaz? Arnaz? How did I say his name? I actually had to Google
But
it
I
quickly.
knew exactly who you were talking about.
You knew who I was talking about though. Someone else's name was Donnell. I know that, but like, how did I say his name? Because reading Arnaz doesn't look right.
Yeah, but like, how did they say it in the show?
I don't know. Arnaz?
One on One.
But either way, that's who it was, and I was obsessed with him.
Oh, you see. Oh, I do remember his real name, Robert Richard with the apostrophe.
Richard.
Oh.
But he was definitely like one of the first crushes I definitely had.
Oh no, I get that. But thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. This was really lovely.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun. You had me thinking towards the end. I'm usually so good at like off the cuff answers, but now you made me think like, what TV do I watch?
That was our interview with Foyin. You can find her at Foyin_Og on Twitter and Foyin Og on Instagram. You can also find her on TikTok. I'll link her TikTok in the show notes below. She's really entertaining. And also check out the hashtag 7day7faces. It would have finished this last week. And there's always new iterations of it. And it's so amazing to see how creative people are doing, creative ways people are using the makeup themes to do great things. Like especially check out the villains one. Like we spoke about it in the interview, and the people that Rebecca, there was somebody who did Mojo Jojo with makeup, and they did the
Oh my goodness!
Someone did Yzma from Emperor's New Groove. Okay, it was
I forgot that they existed.
Brilliant work that people have done. But yeah, check out that hashtag. You will be entertained.
Cool.
Before we head off, Rebecca, what have you been crushing on these past 2 weeks?
I have been crushing on BoJack. Actually, BoJack Horseman. I always thought, just a bunch of pop and cheese. I don't know if I'm gonna enjoy this one because you can't get better than The Simpsons, in my opinion. But then, yeah, I convinced someone to watch The Simpsons, so therefore, I don't know why I was so judgmental about BoJack for so long. But when I actually started watching it, I understood why people love it.
And don't you just love all Net's voice?
100%. I think I didn't want to look at who the people were that did the voices until the end of the show, because now that I know that it's Will Arnett doing BoJack Horseman, I picture him when he speaks. But like Diane Nguyen, one of the Vietnamese like characters on the show, she's played by Alison Brie.
Oh wow.
It's like, yeah, like like white as heck woman playing a Vietnamese woman. So I shouldn't have looked, but yeah, I found it interesting. Yeah.
I'm gonna make that my slogan. White as heck.
What about you?
For me, there's one movie that's really stood out for me, in one series, but the movie is this film called Rocks. You can find it on Netflix, and it just got nominated for a whole lot of BAFTA awards. But it's about this girl, and her name is Rox, or her nickname, and she and her mother like abandons her and a little brother, and she's it's the whole film she's trying to keep her and her little brother out of foster care. So she's like pretending that her mother's still around. She's trying to make things. She wants to keep his imagination going, and then she is like aided by her friends and stuff like that. But it sounds very depressing, but it's not. um it's
Hmm.
realistic, like it's how things are for a lot of lower income people, especially in London. Like we always get like one type of story about London, but there's a whole different. But it just also shows how rich the immigrant like traditions are in London and the communities that they have there.
Hmm.
And it's
Hmm.
funny, it's interesting, and like it's very endearing, like it's tender, like you love the characters. And before the film was made, there
Hmm.
wasn't like for a year before that, they casted the characters, and they just like workshop the story around them. So like the characters also seem like they know
Wow.
each other well, like they get along well. They have like this like
Yeah.
banter that it feels very natural. And like I was just surprised how much I loved it. I had to review it for Channel 24, and I gave it 5 stars. I was like, I didn't even know how to speak about it because I just enjoyed it like so much. I was like glued to the screen. So that's a film. It's called The Rocks.
Nice.
So check it out on Netflix. And then the series I've been
On my
watching
list.
is a South African series that a lot of people know is super popular, Tully's Baby Diary, which is the sequel to Tully's Wedding Diary. And oh
Oh
my
my
gosh,
gosh.
I died. I was laughing so much at it. Like, um, it's just like it's very like it's satirical. She makes fun of obviously these rich girls that live in Sea Point, but it also doesn't feel nasty.
Hmm.
Like it's like she makes fun of things that are worth making fun of, like silly things about it, and not like of who they
Hmm.
are. And it's still kind of kind. So I like that. And there's also a lot of subplots and good character acting by like the supporting characters. And
Is Marianne in
I
there?
don't know, I didn't understand.
Marianne. Oh, she was in Suzelle
I know I
DIY.
didn't watch this out there. I really enjoyed it. We also gonna have next episode we're gonna talk more about Tylee's baby dad. Hopefully, we can I can tease that we're going to have, yeah, we're going to feature a lot more about Tylee's baby daddy in next week's episode. But for now, yes, catch up. Like it's so funny and brilliant. Like I enjoyed it more than the first series, so definitely.
Oh, nice.
But that's all from us this week. You can catch us on all the socials. You can catch me at Karen Welby on Instagram, at Karen Welby's with an S on Twitter, and sign up for my newsletter, wildestreams.substack.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and tag us on Instagram when you listen to the podcast. The podcast can be found at Crushing on Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find more information about this and all our other episodes at our website, crushingonpodcast.com, and send any feedback to crushingonpod@gmail.com. Join our Facebook group, Crushing On Club, where we chat about the show, celebrity news, recommendations, the whole shebang. Let us know what you think about what was discussed in this week's episode by sending us a voice note or email to crushingonpod@gmail.com. The show is produced by me, Karen, and Rebecca Barches. The show is edited and engineered by Rebecca Barches. Our logo was designed by Latifa Maroof. And the show was created in partnership with IGN Africa. If you like the show, tell everyone that you can any way that you can. Keep up to date with all our episodes by subscribing to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please rate and review the episodes on Apple Podcasts, as it helps others find the show. We'll be back next week with another in-depth conversation with a pop culture lover. See you then!